see. Let's wow, please. Oh no, please. Let's go. Don't fail start. 6.8. Please. Oh no, oh no. Please wait, please. So, did Will Smith disappoint you every week? Because every week you will have limited chance this one to open up. So everything is cat. A lot of people complain everything is cat. So now I had to collect my whole week's reward here. So all these checks is my whole week's effort buying from the seasonal shops and get from the sword trial and do the ring and hero rings. So this is all I get from this week. So let's open up together. So let's see whether is this really a disappointment or is an excitement, because I haven't got my Indian gear. So look at this one, a lot of fail start I still have from this gear. So let's together open up this chest pads. So the first one, so let's go. This one is a puff chest. So I'm going to go with the nameless suit. Let's go. So I have this one. This is useless. Precision also useless. Then this body also useless. This one max physical attack. I will tune this one. Then this one is also useless, means physical attack. So all the purple is just rubbish. Okay, 50 fast chest already open. So now this one also another 33 chest here, your chest. So going to select this one. Jetway, yes, correct, exactly. Let's go. So I have this one critical red. Is also not my favorite. So it's a fail start for me. So okay, let's go. Then I still have this 24 chest here. So let's go open out. Jetway, yes, correct. Let's go. Wow, it looks like a lot. So this is fail start. I think this seems okay. So I do this one is good. Critical rate is fail start. Max physical is okay. So it looks like I have a few gear which seems good. I can use to tune. So okay, get all these chests. So this one I will use it for my weapons. So open up this one because I need the sword. So I open up 2 by 2. Let's see. 2 of this one. Sword momentum is okay. Oh, this is good also. So let's see whether can I tune. Let's start the tuning first. So the sword, look at this one, it's not very good. So I don't want the critical rate, and this one also not very good. So I'll start tuning with this max physical attacks. Let's go for tunings. So going to use my this one. Where is it? Oh yeah, I got this one. A guaranteed material combined with this one. Okay, let's see. Wow, it looks okay. Max physical attack. Then I'm going to use one more. Yes, looks on the right track. We got 2 max physical attack. Okay, let's spend this one. Let's go for the second one, please. Wow, max fail strike is okay. No fail start yet. I'm going to tune again. Let's go. House start speed is a fail start. Never mind. First one is okay. We can still retune it. Okay, last one, please. So going to clear out my gold. These gold colors here. To make it more neat, if I don't want this one, not to confuse, so I use up this one. That's body, use this one. This one also fail start. Then critically, I don't need body is worse. So critically, I also don't need this one. So let's go. Don't give me the fail start. Oh no, this is not I want. So I have two items that this is not good. My current is still quite, it's better because I have this affinity. Oh, that one is okay. Let's go for the momentums. Let's see if I can get. I think I'm going to open up more gear for my sword. So this is a sword. Open up another 2. Let's go. I need max physical attacks. Yes. Wow, look at this one. I have max physical attacks, so let's go again. Please. Let's go. Don't fail start. 只有8 health. Timer. I think not going to go further. Don't want to waste the material. So if we get first one, just ignore this one. Let's try I think later only try the momentums. So let's go with another 2 sword. I think just open up 3 sword. Max physical attacks. Max physical attacks. Oh, I got 1 max physical attacks. Max physical attack. This one open up. Okay, let's try. Please. Oh no, it's a fail start. Useless. I don't need positions now. So the next one is this momentums. Where is this one? Okay, this one. Yeah, just a last chance. But now, let's go first one. Position is a fail start. Oh no, it's wasted. Everything wasted. All the sword. Okay, so let's open up a few more sword from here. Another 2 more sword. Please give me some good sword. Next momentum, no use. Another 2. Please. Oh, there's nothing. So this week I can't get any good weapons. Momentum, I need a gold one. It's not good. And okay, let's go with the armor. This one is fail start. Nothing can tune. Then this one, the armor precision. Don't want this one. Also don't want. So it's fail start. Also, so nothing special here. So this one, affinity. Yeah, this one is good. So let's go. See can we get another. I got 2 power here. I don't think I can have 1. This 3 is already good. Let's see if we can get all 5 good start. Otherwise, first is a fail start already. So I think going to throw this weapon. So many fail start. So it makes my weapons useless. So this one is also fail start. I don't need critical red for my nether sword. Then nothing else here. This is max physical attack. This one I have 1 fail start. Let's see if we can get all 5 fail start. Please. Max. Okay, this is okay. 1 more, please. Oh, mean bell strike is a fail start. So it seems. Shall we go further with this one? I think no need to go further because I have 2 max physical attacks with capacity momentums. Only 1 fail start. Because this one max bell strike isn't very good. So I think I won't get a good one. Maybe let's try 1 more time. Give you 1 more chance. Since I still have some material. Okay, let's go. Because I can going to try this one. Oh, max physical attacks seems okay. Let's go. I think going to clear some gold here because it's very confusing. For example, this one. This is critical. I don't need this one. Just clear up this one. I don't appear in my inventory. So I'm going to keep all the gear. Okay, going to throw this one. Let's go. It's means this attacks. Oh no, wasted so much. So what else can I do? 1 more max physical attack. This one I had 1 fail start only. So let's see if we can get all 5 perfect here to place. Max physical attack is already not good. So this one, nothing else. Normal here. So let's see the sword momentum. I don't need this one. This is so not good. You cannot replace my current gear. I got no spear this time. Then helmet, also nothing. So that's all about this week. So this is all the hardship that from my sword trial get from my hero rings and the duke rings. Then keep all the energies. So this week I don't get any boost in my detail. Look at this one. I'm still short of momentum. I need 300. So nothing improvement to my character this week. Doing the whole week getting nothing. So you look at this one. So a lot of players tend to complain that there's a lot of cat because you see this week I open up almost 100 chests. So I got nothing like you cause zero improvement at all. So going to wait next week to reset, then only I can get all the chests. So I don't know what I'm doing this week. So today this week is totally wasted. This is all about the game. This is how the game is intended to design. I already brought everything here. This one, I already brought the gear. I brought this too. Then like that only. So what to do? Okay, bye bye. Nothing can do. Let's wait for next week. Bye bye. Thanks for watching. Bye. So what can I do? So this week totally doing nothing. So that's all. That's all I can do. So what I can do is to wait for the next week. So this week I can't do anything. So that's all about the videos. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.